Move on now to President Trump doubling down on unsupported claims that an intelligence informant was spying on his campaign.
The president on Twitter calling for action now. George Stephanopoulos is standing by with analysis, but we're going to start here with ABC's David Wright, who's at the White House. David, good morning to you.
Good morning, Dan and Diane. It's still not clear whether the reports of an FBI mole inside the Trump campaign is a tempest in a teapot or, as the president himself has suggested, something that's potentially bigger than Watergate. But the story is gaining steam, in part with the president's help. This weekend, President Trump tweeted if the FBI or DOJ was infiltrating a campaign for the benefit of another campaign, that is a really big deal, adding that only the release or review of documents held by the Justice Department will set the record straight. Trump's own FBI director has balked at sharing sensitive documents with the House Intelligence Committee, citing national security.
The day that we can't protect human sources is the day the American people start becoming less safe.
Revealing a source's identity, he warned, could put American lives at risk. That hasn't stopped some news organizations from speculating. According to published reports, a confidential informant did meet with several key Trump advisors during the 2016 campaign, after the FBI received evidence of suspicious contact with the Russians. Trump's lawyer used the issue to hammer the Mueller probe.
I think we're going to have to look into whether we can challenge the legitimacy of the entire investigation. Maybe a special prosecutor, special counsel never should have been appointed.
But a day later, Rudy Giuliani admitted the president doesn't know for sure if there was a spy on his campaign.
The reporting corroborates what people have told us off the record. You don't know if they're right or not.
All of this would have been long before Robert Mueller took over the Russia investigation, but the president and his allies are fanning this controversy even as there are new developments in the Mueller investigation. Today, the New York Times reports of another possible Trump Tower meeting, this one between Don Jr. He reportedly met with an Israeli social media specialist as well as a representative of two wealthy Arab princes offering to mount a campaign in support of Donald Trump's candidacy, a social media campaign. This is potentially significant because it would, if it checks out, it would mean that it's not just Russian meddling we're talking about here, but other countries trying to meddle as well. Dan and Diane?
So much to talk about here, David. Thank you. As promised, let's bring in ABC News chief anchor George Stephanopoulos, who's going to be hosting this week a little bit later this morning.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Well, let's start with the story about the FBI quote-unquote informant. What's your take?
Well, I think the word you just used is an important one, informant, not mole inside the campaign. The reporting from what we know is that there was an informant for the FBI who had conversations with members of the Trump campaign, George Papadopoulos, one of them, Carter Page, another one of them. Not someone inside the campaign, not someone embedded in the campaign, but a longtime source for the FBI who's worked on several other investigations, who also served as an informant, had these conversations with members of the Trump campaign. From what's been reported, it seems like these conversations were relatively unexceptionable. Hard to know what came of them, but from what's been reported so far, it seemed like he was pumping both Carter Page and George Papadopoulos for information and may not have gotten all that much.
But the way they're playing it, the way the Trump team is playing it, does it strike you as good strategy in terms of sowing doubt about whether the whole investigation has a rotten root?
Well, whether it's good or not, it's not for me to judge, but I can say that it is clear now that the strategy of President Trump and his legal team is to raise questions about Robert Mueller, is to sow doubt about Robert Mueller, and this certainly feeds into that. I'm just trying to establish what's true and what's not true here. What's been reported, what we know about what's been reported is that there was an informant for the FBI who has not been revealed, not a mole embedded in the campaign.
And George, we heard David refer to that New York Times report about Donald Trump Jr. meeting with other foreigners offering to help the Trump campaign. How significant is that?
Depends on what happened inside that meeting. If you talk to Donald Trump Jr.'s attorney, who's quoted in the piece as well, who says that he had this meeting, nothing came of it. The emissaries also, some of the emissaries also say that nothing came of it. In fact, the Israeli social media expert says that he did not do work for the Trump campaign. Now, the New York Times also reports, though, that a $2 million payment was made from the emissary of the Gulf nations to that Israeli social media company after the campaign. I think one of the big questions that Robert Mueller is going to have to determine is what was that $2 million payment for, Was it indeed for help to the Trump campaign? That is the big question.
A big question this morning among many. George, thank you. And I want to remind everybody, George has a big show, as always, this morning. As mentioned, he's going to go one-on-one with the Lieutenant Governor of Texas for the latest details on that deadly shooting in Santa Fe.
And plus, he'll also speak with parents who lost children in the Parkland and Newtown shootings for their response to this latest school tragedy and what comes next. That's coming up on This Week right here on ABC.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.